Recorded, very good. It is recorded. Again, the government services meeting has been called to order. And the first thing on the agenda was public comment, which we did not have that. So we are going to move along. And the next thing on the agenda would be my comments, which I do not have any, but I will yield this time to our youth and governance statement. So our youth and governance representative, Elizabeth, will read that.
Hello, we are members of the Racine County Youth and Governance Program, and we will be participating in tonight's meeting. This program serves to empower youth in Racine County by encouraging us to participate in local government. We have agreed to abide by the applicable standards of conduct that would govern any elected county board member. While we are encouraged to participate and are allowed to have a non-binding advisory vote on matters before the committee, all formal action taken by this committee will be based solely on the binding votes made by county board supervisors.
Good, thank you so much. And if we could just note the attendance, are you able to do so, MT? Seeing everybody on there? Very good. All right, thank you. Okay, the next thing on the agenda, we'll need approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
All right, I believe that was Supervisor Dembski and second from Supervisor Cruz. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Very good. Is there any opposed? No. Youth and governance, how do you wish to vote?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. So it has been passed, no opposition. And the next on the agenda is now going to be Pam is going to give us an update on the Youth and Governance Program. Please, Pam, take over.
Thank you, Chairwoman Caprellian. Good evening, everyone, and I thank you very much for this time to share with you some updates with the Youth and Governance Program. I did send an email out yesterday with all the documents. I don't know if you prefer I share them or just me hitting some of the highlights since you have received them is sufficient. So I'm open to suggestions, whatever you prefer, Chairwoman Caprellian.
Yeah, if you have the capabilities or if MT, if you need to pass her the ball, please, if you could share if you are in a position to do so.
I can definitely at least try. We'll get it shared and we'll see. I do have the docs up.
Very good.
All right, so we'll see what it looks like when I do this. Aha.
And this is just for the purpose, if anybody were to watch back and look at our recording, that they're able to follow.
Okay. All right, so you should be able to see right now the annual report that I did send to you. I just need to see if I can move all of you so I can, now I can scroll down. So last year, the 2020-2021 group was our 7th year having the program, and this was the group that you recognized in May. The first 2 paragraphs are really just a general overview of the program, a little bit of background history. My question regarding that, is that something that you would like to see in future reports? Or since now we're in our 8th year, do you feel it's maybe a different introduction is needed? I'm open to any suggestions regarding just those first 2 paragraphs with the background information.
This is definitely open for discussion. If anyone had feedback on those 2 paragraphs, I think it still rings very true. So from my opinion. And I hear some nodding of their heads. Well, I don't hear it, I see it.
Sure.
That's a pretty heavy nod, guys. Yeah, so please carry on. But even if you do have a point you would like to make, you can interject at any point. Committee.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Thank you.
And then, as you can see, we have our representatives from last year. I can't give them enough kudos to think like, for the most part, their entire term was virtual. And I know a few of them towards the end got to attend a couple meetings in person, and they were just so happy to be in person. And especially even in May when you recognize them, they were just happy to be there. So they really missed that in-person contact. So thank you though for providing them the opportunity to have the term in the virtual sense. And then they're listed. The recruitment, and I'm not going to read through all this, but just some of the highlights. 64 youth were nominated that year by 19 different individuals. There were 5 freshmen, 27 sophomores, and 32 juniors that were nominated. And in the report, you can read the wide variety of organizations that the nominators and the youth were connected to. So we had both public and private school, and we had a variety of youth serving organizations, including also we had homeschools in there as well. So with Crampett's Academy. Out of the 64, 19 youth submitted applications and 18 youth were interviewed. And the breakdown were 10 females and 8 males were interviewed, and then the 10, of course, that were selected to serve did indeed do that. So just want to give you some information regarding that. In the next section is the data that was analyzed. So you'll see under civic engagement, the top 4 areas of growth were an increase in knowledge of Racine County government, greater awareness of local issues that affect Racine County, more comfortable in group settings of people of mixed ages, and the youth felt they had a useful role in the community in which they live in. In addition, they did indicate, though, they always felt like their opinions were respected and they were encouraged to share their thoughts with committee members. The second area that we do evaluate every year is leadership. And the top 3, and I say 3 because the fourth one is an area that I get through the comments, but they feel that their ability to talk knowledgeably with others about local issues in Racine County increased, being a resource to people in Racine County, and taking responsibility for decision making. And those were the 3 indicators in which they indicated the most growth. And all 9 youth that were surveyed indicated that the program prepared them for future leadership goals. Again, I saw this past group, it was still similar to in past years, that leadership, they didn't experience as much growth, but we seem to find out that it tends to be the leaders who are, or youth who already have leadership skills are the ones applying and being selected to serve. But nonetheless, leadership skills have increased. And so then I give you the data before participation and after participation. And just to get an idea of what the growth was like, the knowledge went up, oops, if I have the right one, 2 points before to after. The local issues went up 1.22 points. The opinion, the difference in community went up almost a full point, 0.72. Feeling comfortable in group settings went up a full point. Feeling that strong connection to Racine County went up 0.67. Useful role in community went up 1.23 points. Likely to seek other leadership roles went up 0.45. And thinking of a career related to government or public service went up 0.44. So there was growth for all of the 8 indicators. And then I always like sharing with you some of the comments that youth did share with me. And so they're there on the right-hand side. I'll just point out a couple of them. One was that I want to comment on was it was stated during committee meetings, we were specifically asked and given time to speak. Other supervisors also asked questions, making the environment friendlier to ask questions. I think what's so important there is they feel like if they see you and hear you asking questions, they feel more comfortable asking questions themselves. Many of them did comment how all committee members, meaning across all the committees, I should say, I so encourage them to ask questions and give their opinion. So they also really appreciate that, and that makes them feel valued, and their opinion feels valued as well. I'll share one other one. We were welcomed by the supervisors and given unlimited time to share our views. Our questions were answered directly, and we are encouraged to speak personally. So the other comments I'll let you read on your own. As far as leadership goes, again, similar before and after, and then I'll give you the growth. New ideas, sharing new ideas with others went up 0.67. Participating in group discussions with adults went up 0.87. Seeing issues from multiple perspectives went up 0.23. Feeling confident about their decision-making skills and taking responsibility for it went up 0.89. Talking knowledgeably with others about local issues went up 1.11 points, and being a resource to people in Racine County went up 1.11 points. So again, growth in all 6 areas. And then I shared some comments about the leadership opportunities and the connections they felt they made, the knowledge they gained, the encouragement they felt from all of you, and how you created that warm, welcoming environment for them to share their opinion with others. In fact, you can see towards the end, they're like, before Yiga, I was really scared to speak up in front of others. Now I feel way more confident in sharing my perspective. I learned to be more comfortable sharing my opinions and standing up for what I believe in. So a lot of positive comments there for you to read as well. And then every year I look to see the changes and like in positive growth, we'll say, or positive change. So you can see the top areas there. Again, that increase in knowledge of Racine County government. We had 7 youth of the 9 who completed the survey that reported 2 or more units of positive change. 4 for local issues that affect Racine County government. And then we have a couple of 3s in there as well. So that speaks volumes as well. Leadership, you won't see again as much growth because they already see themselves as strong leaders. But nonetheless, especially being a resource to people in Racine County, 4 youths grew at least 2 units of positive change. So we did have growth as well there. So you can see based on the comments in the report, youth do see all of you as being just so welcoming. They made connections with you, and I cannot stress the value of mentors. So many of these comments focus around mentors and mentors being there and supporting them through their whole or through their entire term, mentioning some, even pointing out that, you know, in the beginning, they reached out to welcome me, share any advice, and offer any help if I needed it. So, so thank you, those of you, because we have quite a few mentors on this committee, some for other committees, of course, that so appreciate your role and being there for our youth. And then I won't spend a lot of time on this section because I should say who they is. The youth representatives gave a presentation on their 2 projects in May. So this is just a summary of the first project where they created the $250 Youth in Governance sponsored scholarship and mentioning who won, and it gives you a visual of the montage, the visual montage that Abigail created. And then she also wrote an accompanying essay. And then the second project was focusing around mental health and highlighting the Racine County Family Resources website and working with Holly White, who's the project coordinator for the Racine County Healthier Wisconsin's partnership project. What was really exciting is they did many different of these social media posts and reached over 3,100 youth. And Holly did say it did result in increased traffic to their website. So that's all exciting. And then the program recommendations, sometimes I get them from supervisors, sometimes I get them from the youth representatives. Oftentimes they're more verbal than in writing anywhere. But this group in particular, and I think we do need to keep in mind, again, this was COVID, so it's a really unique situation. We couldn't do a face-to-face meeting, or normally we do that as we did this year. So it's encouraged mentors to contact their youth and governance mentee before a meeting though, but they said like even a general meeting, not even, you know, of course at the beginning, but sometimes having that check-in beforehand, seeing are there any terms you didn't understand from any of the materials you got, explain any agenda items, or let them ask any questions about some confusing topics on the agenda or that you may be talking about that evening. Then to have that initial meeting, which we did this year, the mentor-mentee, and to involve future youth and governance representatives in county board meetings. So those were their recommendations. I don't know if there are any questions regarding the annual report.
Thank you so much, Pam. You put a lot of work into organizing this and to really display what all the work and how this has affected the youth. And so I just want to have a big thank you go out to this committee. You guys spent many hours as we went through the process of interviewing. And as we sacrificed those hours, just look how impactful this has been, even though this is from the year before, but it ripples out. This absolutely ripples out. And I believe a lot of these comments that they left will impact them not only now, but for the rest of their lives in some fashion, in some way. So thank you all for your dedication and also making a difference in these youth's lives. I would also open the floor up to the youth and governance representatives if they have some comments as they're reading what the PATH youth have said about this program, and if you would agree or not, or what your additives would be.
I know that looking over this report, it makes me really excited. I'm already feeling like I'm learning a lot from this program, especially now that we're getting into our youth and governance project. But it is really exciting to see the numbers in the actual reports and what they've said.
Thank you for that, Isabel. Elizabeth, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, after having that meeting for the project, I was really excited too, especially after having like a couple short meetings for my committee, so it's exciting.
I'm
I
glad.
appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Elizabeth and Isabel, is there anything from the committee, and even thinking about maybe what we would want to ask from Pam too, if this is you feel sufficient as a report, or if there's anything you would like to add or have added? Yeah, Supervisor Cruz, please. Can anyone hear her?
Mm-mm.
No. I think she's actually frozen too.
Oh,
Oh, Supervisor Cruz?
No big deal if you can't.
Okay, no. Sometimes we just heard your voice. So sometimes by turning off the video allows the audio to come in. So if you would
Okay.
try it that way. Okay, please proceed.
Oh, sure. So I was just going to say how important it is. Like sometimes just one program as a youth can change the entire direction of your future. I think this program is amazing. I was a part of Leadership Racine as an older person, and how much that changed my direction from being in the corporate world to then moving into nonprofit and then into public service with government. And that one program that just really opened my eyes to part of that sometimes schools can't teach you. And so thank you for all your hard work on this program, because it really does change lives, and I'm just really proud of it.
Very well said,
Oh,
Supervisor Cruz. Yeah, and Pam, really hats off. You really are the glue. So much appreciative. Do we have anyone else here that has a comment? Please, Supervisor Dembski.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. And yes, thank you, Pam, so much for all the work that you put into this, not just for this annual report, but for the whole program. I know it's a ton of work, and it doesn't stop. You start the next year before you've ended the first one. So I just wanted to ask for the recommendations that were from the previous youth and governance cohort. I think there were maybe three. One of them was involve the youth and governance in the full county board meetings. Is that input that you think we will be incorporating more into the program, or not necessarily?
I think that answer lies with all of you. I think it would be something that I envision would come as a recommendation from the Government Services Committee, since this program falls under your committee. And if you thought that was valuable, then yes. That I will say one thing that we did change is we did ask that everyone attend at least one board meeting. And it used to be, and that's even in the handbook now. And so we've taken baby steps that way, so that at least the youth representatives are encouraged to attend a meeting. And the thing is, as we know, is they don't get any input while they're at the meetings, but they do get to hear everything that goes on at the meeting. And it can always have a conversation with their mentor afterward regarding what they saw and heard. But if you actually want them to start participating, and even if it's one meeting, or let's say during this month, it's, let's say the youth that are on the Ed Loop committee, you're going to go and we ask that you attend and they get to have a non-binding vote and all. That's all up to you. So right now, the requirement is that they attend a meeting, one meeting.
Great. Thank you for explaining and,
Mhm.
and for sort of putting the ball back in our court. So I know to talk to my colleagues about that if that's something I feel one way or the other about. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Supervisor Meyer?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just had a comment too that I think sometimes it is beneficial for the youth that if they're going through the work in the committees and seeing the work it goes through, that the committee goes through, and then see it come through the county board floor so they can see the first reading, second reading, and get a more of a realization of how that all works, because it does take a little time. And most of the work is done in committee, but then when it gets to the floor, they can kind of see the final, fruits of the labor, so to speak, that how it all kind of comes together. So I think that I do believe Isabel and Elizabeth were both at a meeting after our government services meeting for a short time, and can see somehow some of the things that we go through, and see some of how the transition of the resolutions get forth for first reading and second reading and so on. So I think that would be beneficial down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Meyer. Isabel and Elizabeth, you were at one of our county board meetings. Did you find it beneficial, or were you wandering thinking about your schoolwork? Yes.
I thought it was pretty beneficial. It was my first, the last one that I went to, it was my first. So there was a few times when I was a little bit confused on what was happening with vocabulary. But I know my mentor, Nick, would come over to me and Elizabeth a few times and just kind of explain what was going on, which was really helpful.
Great feedback. Thank you. Elizabeth, did you have some as well? I'm not sure if you're talking, Elizabeth. We can't hear you if you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay. I did think that it was beneficial also. It was cool to see, like, what goes on, how it happens and stuff. And yeah, when I was more confused, that was really helpful when Dembski came over and like gave us papers and stuff, explained things. So yeah, it was nice.
Very good feedback. Thank you for bringing that up, Supervisor Dembski. And I often had said, I ran a mentor program on the city council many years back, and it was just that. It was going from the committee. They followed the committee all the way to the council floor and back. So they got to see the full process. And I think that really does do a service, especially when we talk about language. Pam puts the binder together. Some of that language doesn't always come up unless you go to the full county board. So I think that's a great topic to bring up very soon. And maybe I would like to put in your heads too about recruitment. Pam did have a list of all the areas that recruitment has taken place on. So think about your connections with the youth and who you could reach out to and nominate. So I think that's very beneficial. As you see, I can't remember if it was 60 some people, youth that got nominated and only 18 that ended up getting interviewed. So I think 19 that submitted, but 18 interviewed. So you see those numbers about recruitment. Yeah. So with that, I'm actually going to allow Scott to finish this up, even if it's a adjournment. I am going to step off. So Scott, if you don't mind, it was nice seeing everyone. And thank you. And Scott, if you could take the baton. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Chair Mayor,
Yes, Pam.
or Meyer, Meyer.
It's okay.
You'd think by now I know it's Meyer, right?
It's okay.
I'm just wondering if I could have another moment just to share with the committee a change that I'm proposing for the upcoming year. Actually, it's to do what we did this year. If I may take a moment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I am proposing, that's why I sent budget to you, to show that I would be well within my budget. In the past, I've had $1,500 to spend every year. And I'll tell you, most years we don't even come close, because really what it boils down to is how much money the youth need for their project. And in the past, there's only been 1 year where we needed any money. Where we do spend most of the money is on the bus tour and on the recognition celebration. So this year we had the ingoing representatives sworn in April, and we had cupcakes, and we had the outgoing representatives recognized in May. I'd like to propose that we keep it that way. It makes for a more personal experience, and it also gives us that opportunity, like, to have the mentor-mentee meeting beforehand, which is a great opportunity for all of you to come together with your mentors. And then we can have our outgoing group come in, answer questions for the incoming group. So I'm proposing that we keep that split, and that either we do the cupcakes again, or we have a cake both times, like either time. And that is still well within budget. And then my second proposal is also to have 2 separate bus tours. We found that to be quite useful. We are so, it's information inundation, and we run long when we do the first one already, and that's the departments. And we used to have the Juvenile Detention Center and the Law Enforcement Center on that same day, and we were always running behind. So this year we did the Juvenile Detention Center and Law Enforcement Center in July, and all the departments in June. So I'm proposing we do keep it that way, and just say that both of the bus tours are mandatory. I've already checked with the Juvenile Detention Center and Law Enforcement Center. They can do it the same week as we would normally do all the departments. The difference is we would visit their facilities on Tuesday and the others on Thursday. Also, that means youth would know they just need to keep that week free and not some other time in the summer. So it wouldn't affect, they already are required to attend the one, so they already know to save time that week. So I wanted to have both tours in the same week. It is within budget, both with busing and for providing food, because usually the Law Enforcement Center provides the meal for us when we visit them. And then usually it comes out of now it comes out of the budget that I am given to feed them for the other part of the tour. Unless you'd prefer that we say bring a bag lunch. I mean, that's always an option too, to save money.
Questions from the committee? Any thoughts? Any comments? Pam, I do know that from going on some of the first tours, it is a full packed day. It is a long day, and it can be information overload. I mean, there's so much going on, and there's a lot to digest all one time. So splitting it, I wasn't able to go on to one now that we split it, but I'm sure that would be a lot more, easily for them to retain some of the stuff and ask more questions and spend more time in some of the departments that they show a lot of interest in. So, I mean, that's kind of helpful for them as well. I know it does kind of, occupy 2 different days, so they have twice the commitment instead of one long day, but it is something that I think that tour is very, very beneficial. And I think it's something that we should continue to keep doing. So, and as far as the split incoming class and outgoing class, if that's working well, let's continue to do that, unless the committee has another thought process on that. And we can check with Chairwoman Caprillion as well. But unless there's some other thoughts from the committee on that, we could probably continue to go forth on your recommendation.
Yeah.
Kelly, you got a comment? Supervisor Cruz.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I've done all of these tours in depth, even just one-on-one, I've done them all. And let me tell you, there's so much information to take in both of the time, well, all 3 times, the ride along, the jail tour, and the Ives Grove tour, and then the human services tour at both buildings. I left all of them were each separately, 4 to 5 hours, and that was one-on-one. And I left with my mind just exploding with information. So I can only imagine that we need to break these things up, because people don't recognize the depth of the services, and to really take it all in so that you're not on the last leg of the tour and not really understanding. I 100% agree. So let's spend that money and let's treat them well. Let's treat them to lunch. Let's keep them, nourished. Let's keep them happy, get them some sweets halfway along the way to keep them interested. And let's do this the right way. Let's not be cheap about it. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Supervisor Cruz. Supervisor Maldonado, do you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up. Okay. Any other committee, any questions or comments? All right, not seeing any. That sounds good, Pam. We'll continue to keep pushing that forward, see what we can do.
Great. Thank you all so much. And so the information that I sent you, I wanted you to see if we did it that way. So all that outreach information that Chairwoman Caprillion mentioned, that's in there with the 2 tours so that you're aware of it. And then all the important dates are in there. And so hopefully, fingers crossed, or we can see tonight if February 23rd will work for all of you or the majority of you, because that is our first round of interviews. And then as we get closer to the date, right now I do have the auditorium in Ives Grove. What's the word? I just had a brain freeze. Reserved. There we go. Reserved. So we're good to go. But if we do change that date, I need to know, because then, I need to reserve a room. So I have it reserved for February 23rd for the first round, and then March 1st if we need it. However, usually we don't need it. So just seeing if we're good to go on the 23rd of February.
I think at this point we should probably put it on our calendars and look forward to penciling that in. And if there's something dramatic that comes up, we can address it.
Okay, thank you.
Pam, do you see any struggles or any hurdles for as far as recruitment, this year now with everything kind of coming back into full swing? Do you hope, or do you see that, or do you hope to see that our numbers are going to be up, as far as nominations, possibly, with things being, more back to in-person with education?
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, I will say this past year when everyone, well, not everyone, so many of the districts were still virtual, we actually had a better turnout. So you're going to see that in next year's annual report. And we interviewed you interviewed 38 youth. So we had actually more nominated, more apply, more interviewed. So that's exciting. So I am hoping that that trend continues.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Chair, a quick question.
Absolutely.
Thank
Supervisor Dembski.
Pam, I just wanted to ask, so February 23rd, can you give us a time frame? I know that it's like potentially until 10:30 p.m. or whatever, but starting time frame at least?
Oh, usually we start, it's really what works out best for you. We've started as early as 5 o'clock in the past and as late as 6 o'clock, and a lot depends on numbers. Another reason why is you had decided you did want to do only one night. That was an exception. I don't know if any other year it's gone till 10:30. Maybe some of you who have been doing this longer can tell me that. And that's also a thought. If we see, let's say we have 40 who you want to interview again, maybe then we do say, let's do 2 nights instead of 1 marathon. That's really all up to you. I put it on my schedule regardless, and you can decide that. But right now, usually it's really up to you. I'd say as early as 5, or we can split the difference and say we want to start at 5:30. Right now I have the time to be determined.
Thank you very much, Pam. Yeah, that was a major rager party that we had at government services this year.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Pam? Pam, again, thank you for doing everything that you do for the youth and for our committee. It's a great program, and we really do appreciate it very, very much. So thank you very much.
I have one last question. I just thought of it. I want to email all the supervisors with the same materials, all the outreach materials, because it starts on November 1st. Do you think it's best just to email everyone, or should I leave hard copies on everyone's desk? I don't know how many times you're coming in. And I can do both, of course. So how valuable are the hard copies is really what I need to know.
MT, do you want to weigh in on that?
If you didn't see from my enthusiastic thumbs up, I think you should have hard copies also.
Okay.
I will do that.
How many people actually check emails?
All right.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you all so much for your time and your support of the program. Thank you.
All right, so with that, is there any other questions for Pam in regards to the Youth and Governance Annual Report and updates? Not seeing any. MT, our next potential meeting date would be possibly November.
You're putting me on the spot.
I'm trying to look for a calendar myself, trying to get an idea on November.
It would be the 16th, right? Yes, the 16th of November. Right before, is that deer hunting? Right before deer
Possible.
hunting.
Correct. So we would put that on there tentatively, but I'm sure we'll check with Chairwoman Kuprillian as well. If there's no other information.
Oh, you're going a little bit in and out.
Or no other, I said if there's no other information for this committee, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second.
And a first by Supervisor Dembski and
Sure.
a second by Maldonado.
That's correct.
Thanks, you guys.
Take care, y'all.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Great night. Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Youth and Governance. Great to see you.